Imagine walking through steel gates not as a criminal, but as a ghost. A man erased from every file that ever mentioned his name. That was Darius Cole, the newest arrival at Redrock Penitentiary. The guards didn't know his story. The inmates didn't care. To them, he was just another body in the system, another face to push around. But under that calm stare hid something no one could measure or survive. The air inside Redrock was thick, metal, sweat, and fear. Every clang of a door felt like a heartbeat, steady and cold. Darius walked with the patience of a man who'd been here before, eyes scanning, counting exits, reading faces like maps. Officer Granger tossed him a prison uniform. "Follow procedure, inmate Cole. No talking, no trouble." Darius only nodded, quiet, controlled, dangerous. From the far end of the block, a deep voice echoed, "Fresh meat." The laughter that followed wasn't friendly. It belonged to Blade, the prison's self-proclaimed king, a mountain of muscle covered in scars and ego. His crew surrounded the new guy during lunch, forming a wall of hostility. "Yo, new fish. You got a name?" "Cole." "Just Cole?" "You forget the word, sir." The hall fell silent. Forks paused midair. Everyone watched to see if the quiet man would bow or break. But Darius didn't even blink. He stared through Blade as if the man were air. One of Blade's lackeys shoved him. "Answer the boss, punk." Darius straightened his shirt, calm as still water. "I heard him. I'm just deciding if he's worth answering." The room froze. Even the guards pretended not to notice what was coming. Blade grinned, a predator smelling blood. "Oh, you'll answer me soon enough." Darius smiled. Small, sharp, and cold. "Maybe, but you won't like how." He turned back to his meal. The hall erupted in whispers. Who was this guy? Why wasn't he afraid? That night, alone in his cell, Darius sat on the edge of his bunk. Moonlight slipped through the bars, cutting across his face. He whispered to himself, "They think I'm prey. They'll learn what hunts in the dark." The ghost had entered Redrock, and hell was about to remember his name. Morning in Redrock started like every other day. Steel doors slamming, voices echoing through concrete. But something was different. Every inmate could feel it. The tension that followed Darius Cole like a shadow that didn't belong to this world. He moved through the corridors silently, head down, hands behind his back. To the untrained eye he looked calm. To the observant he looked calculating. And that unsettled Blade. He'd ruled Redrock for years through fear and fists. No one ever looked him in the eye. But that quiet new guy, he hadn't flinched once. That alone was enough to light a fuse. During lunch, Blade made his move. His gang, 5 men built like broken statues, surrounded Darius in the chow line. The hum of the room faded into silence. Forks stopped. Trays froze mid-air. "Morning, Cole," Blade said, voice dripping arrogance. "You sleep well? Hope the rats didn't bother you too much." Darius didn't respond. He just lifted his tray, scooped a spoonful of food, and kept walking. Blade stepped in front of him. "Hey, I'm talking to you." Darius's eyes flicked up, not angry, just aware. "Are you?" he said softly. The question wasn't defiance. It was dismissal. Blade's crew laughed, the nervous kind of laughter that comes before a storm. Spider, his wiry lieutenant, shoved Darius hard in the chest. "You gonna let him talk to you like that, boss?" Blade smirked. "I'll teach him some manners." He reached for Darius's shoulder, and that's when it happened. In one smooth motion, Darius caught his wrist, not with force, but precision. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't touch me again." For a second, everything stopped. Even Blade froze, caught off guard by the speed, the control. The kind of control that doesn't come from brawling. It comes from training. Darius released him slowly and stepped back. "Walk away, Blade. This isn't your fight." Blade laughed. Too loud, too forced. "You think you scare me, boy? You're in my house." Darius tilted his head, calm as a winter lake. "No, Blade, you're in mine now." The line hit like a slap. Inmates gasped. Even the guards watching from the tower leaned forward. Blade didn't attack that day. Not yet. He wasn't ready to lose face in front of his kingdom. But everyone in Redrock knew what was coming. The bully had just found his wall. That night, Darius sat in his cell again, staring at the flickering light. The whispers had already begun. "Who is that guy? Did you see how fast he moved?" And from the far end of the block, Blade's voice growled through the dark. "Enjoy your peace, Cole. It's the last night you'll have it." Darius didn't reply. He just closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he smiled, because he knew the game had finally begun. Days passed in Redrock, each one heavier than the last. The concrete walls seemed to breathe with whispers now, whispers of the new inmate who didn't bow. Every prisoner had a story about Darius Cole, and none of them were true. Some said he was ex-military. Others claimed he'd killed a warden once. No one knew who he really was, and Darius wasn't about to tell them. But Blade couldn't stand it. The idea that someone, anyone, was stealing attention in his prison burned him alive. So he made it his mission to break the quiet man. It started small. Darius' bunk torn apart. Personal photos ripped. His few possessions gone. Every time he returned to his cell, something else had been destroyed. He never reacted. He just cleaned up, folded his sheets again, and kept silent. "Man, you gonna let them do you like that?" A cellmate whispered one night. Darius didn't look up. "I've fought bigger demons than them." In the yard, Blade's crew followed him like hyenas, circling, taunting. Spider called out, "Hey, Shadow Boy, you too scared to fight?" Darius ignored him, eyes scanning the fence line, counting cameras, patrol times, exits, but silence. Silence can make monsters more dangerous. By the third week, it was no longer about respect. It was about humiliation. One afternoon, while Darius worked laundry duty, Blade's men cornered him behind the industrial dryers. Steam filled the air. The hum of machines drowned the noise. "Where's your voice now, tough guy?" One hissed, slamming him into a wall. Darius didn't struggle. He just stared, calm as ever. "Done?" he asked. Spider swung. A hard punch across the face. Darius barely flinched. "You should have stayed invisible, man," Spider sneered. Darius's eyes locked on his. "I was invisible," he said softly, "until you made me remember who I am." For the first time, Spider felt it. That cold chill of standing too close to something not quite human. The guards showed up before it got worse. "Break it up!" Darius didn't explain, didn't point fingers. He simply went back to folding towels. That night, Blade sat on his bunk, boiling. His crew was restless. "Boss, maybe we should leave him alone," Nick said nervously. Blade glared. He bleeds like anyone else, but Blade didn't understand. Darius wasn't resisting out of fear. He was holding something back, something none of them could survive. As the lights went out, the prison fell into uneasy silence. And from somewhere in the darkness, Darius whispered to himself, "They want to fight. They'll get a lesson instead." The next morning, word spread. Blade was planning something brutal. And every man in Redrock knew what that meant. The storm was coming. And when it hit, Redrock would never be the same again. The morning of the ambush began like any other. Breakfast at dawn. Yard time at 8. Showers after. Routine, predictable. And that's exactly why Blade chose it. The guards had grown lazy. The cameras didn't cover the back corner of the showers. The steam was thick enough to hide a crime. And Blade had his crew waiting there. Spider, Nix, and 2 more, all armed with sharpened toothbrush handles and rage. "End it quick," Blade hissed, cracking his knuckles. No noise, no hesitation. The water hissed and echoed against the tiles. Darius walked in quietly, towel over his shoulder, eyes scanning out of habit. He felt it immediately, the wrong kind of silence. The kind that comes before violence. But he didn't run. He set his towel down, turned the valve, and waited. Steam rose, blurring the edges of everything. And then, movement, Spider struck first. A flash of metal. Darius sidestepped, water spraying across his chest. The shiv grazed his ribs, drawing blood. Not deep, but enough. He didn't shout, didn't curse, just exhaled slowly. "You shouldn't have done that," he said softly. What happened next was chaos. Darius moved like something uncoiled. Fast, precise, merciless. He caught Spider's wrist mid-swing, twisted, and the bone snapped like a twig. Before the scream could echo, Darius had already turned, driving his elbow into Nix's jaw. The man dropped instantly. Blade charged from behind, roaring, swinging his weapon high. Darius ducked low, pivoted, and slammed his shoulder into Blade's gut. The impact sent the larger man crashing into the tiled wall. "Think this makes you a man, Blade?" Darius growled. Blade spat blood. "Makes me king!" He swung again, but this time Darius caught the blow, not with strength, but precision. He stepped inside the attack, hand locking around Blade's wrist, the other pressing against his throat. "You talk too much." A flash, a sharp twist. Blade's weapon clattered to the floor. In seconds, it was over. Steam mingled with blood on the tiles. 4 men lay groaning, defeated. And in the middle of it all stood Darius, breathing steady, eyes cold. He turned to Blade, now kneeling, dazed and humiliated. "I told you to walk away." Then he dropped the weapon at Blade's feet. "I don't need to kill you," he said. "You'll destroy yourself just fine." As Darius walked out, the alarm finally blared. Guards stormed in, shouting orders, dragging bodies. But the message had already spread through Redrock like fire in dry grass. The quiet man wasn't prey. He was a predator. That day, the prison changed forever, and the legend of Darius Cole, the ghost who fought like death itself, was born. The shower block incident spread through Redrock faster than contraband. Every inmate knew the story, how the quiet new guy took down Blade and his crew without breaking a sweat. Whispers filled the yard, the mess hall, even the solitary wing. And every whisper grew darker, stranger, more impossible. "Man's ex-military, I'm telling you." "Nah, heard he worked for some secret agency. Dude's not even supposed to be here. He's a ghost." The truth was, none of them were wrong. For years, Darius Cole had been a name whispered in the criminal underworld, a contract killer so efficient he left no trace. Governments denied he existed. Criminals prayed they'd never meet him, but that life was gone, or so he thought, until Redrock forced him to remember. He hadn't meant to fight. He hadn't wanted to, but survival had a way of waking things you thought were buried. From his cell, Darius could hear the change in tone. No more taunts. No more laughter when he passed. Men stepped aside. Eyes dropped. Even the guards treated him differently now. They called him Shadow, and in prison, a name like that meant power. But power draws danger. Blade, confined to the infirmary with broken ribs and a bruised ego, stewed in humiliation. Every breath hurt, but the real pain was pride. He had ruled through fear for years, and now fear had a new face. He couldn't let that stand. One of his men, a jittery convict nicknamed Twitch, was good with tech. Too good for prison. He'd smuggled in a burner phone and a SIM card. Blade gave him a task. "Find out who that guy really is," he hissed through cracked teeth. "No one moves like that unless he's killed before." Twitch nodded and got to work. Late at night, under the flicker of a stolen light bulb, he dug deep, past firewalls, past sealed files, into government blacklists. And then he found it. Cole, Darius, a status, classified. Affiliation, unknown. Suspected involvement in 37 confirmed kills. Aliases, Shadow, The Cleaner, Spectre. Twitch froze. He scrolled again, hands shaking. A photo, grainy, old, but unmistakable. The same calm eyes. The same unreadable face. He ran back to Blade's cell. "Boss, you don't understand," he stammered. "That guy, he's not just some fighter. He's a hitman. A real one. The kind they send when they want ghosts made." Blade laughed at first, until he saw the look on Twitch's face. That's when the color drained from his own. For the first time, the king of Redrock felt something new. Not anger, not pride, fear. He leaned back on the infirmary bed, staring at the ceiling. "What the hell have I started?" he whispered. Down the hall, Darius sat in the dark, staring at his reflection in the cell window. And for the first time in years, he whispered back, "You should have left the ghost alone." The days after Twitch's discovery were heavy with silence. Every man in Redrock now knew who Darius Cole truly was. The whispers weren't rumors anymore. They were warnings. Don't look him in the eyes. Don't say his name at night. Even the guards kept their distance. But Blade couldn't live with fear. Fear made him weak. And weakness, in a place like Redrock, was death. Lying in the infirmary, stitches still fresh across his ribs, Blade stared at the cracked ceiling. His pride screamed louder than his pain. "I don't care who he was," he muttered. "Nobody humiliates me." Twitch hovered nearby. "Boss, please. This guy, he's not human. He's a professional killer." Blade glared. "Then he bleeds like one." That night the plan was set. They'd hit him in the yard. Broad daylight, no shadows to hide in. 6 men, armed with shivs, sharpened spoons, and rage. If they couldn't kill Darius Cole, they'd die trying. Quick pause for you, the viewer. What would you do in Blade's shoes? Would you walk away, or face the devil to prove you're not afraid? Tell us in the comments below. Your thoughts shape how we tell these stories. Now, back to Redrock. The yard buzzed with tension that morning. Guards leaned on their towers, unaware they were seconds from chaos. Darius was on cleanup duty near the benches. Head low, eyes steady. He'd felt it all week. The shift. The silence before the hunt. He wasn't surprised when the circle formed. 6 men, weapons glinting under the sun. Blade at the front, jaw tight, eyes bloodshot. "It's over, Cole," he said, voice shaking. "You had your fun. Now it's my turn." Darius set down the mop handle in his hand, his only weapon. "You sure about that?" he asked quietly. Blade's lip curled. "I've been sure since the day you walked in." For a moment, neither moved. Then, in one sudden collective roar, Blade's crew rushed him. The yard exploded in violence. Guards shouted. Sirens wailed. But inside that circle it was just Darius. Calm, deliberate, unstoppable. He disarmed the first man with a twist of the wrist, dropped him with a single blow. The second came swinging. Darius ducked, swept his legs out, turned the motion into another takedown. 3 more followed, fast and furious. But Darius was faster. Every strike was surgical. Controlled, efficient, terrifying. When the dust settled, 5 men were on the ground, groaning in pain. Only Blade remained, clutching a shiv and breathing hard. Darius stepped closer, eyes steady. "This is your last warning, Blade. I don't want your throne. I just want peace." Blade spat blood. "Peace died when you walked in here," Darius sighed. "Then maybe it's time Redrock learned what real war looks like." The yard was chaos. Alarms blaring, sirens echoing off the concrete walls of Redrock Prison. Guards shouted orders, inmates scattered, and in the center of it all stood Darius Cole and Blade. 2 forces of nature colliding in a storm neither could escape. The bodies of Blade's crew lay scattered across the dirt, groaning, beaten but alive. Only Blade remained standing, his chest heaving, his weapon shaking in his hand. "This ends now," he snarled. Darius tilted his head slightly, calm, almost pitying. "No, Blade, it ended the moment you made me remember who I was." He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, like death itself walking through sunlight. Every inmate in the yard stopped moving. Even the guards hesitated, caught between fear and fascination. Blade lunged first, raw fury overpowering thought. His blade slashed through the air, missing by inches. Darius sidestepped, caught Blade's wrist and twisted, the same motion as before, but this time he didn't stop. A crack echoed across the yard. Blade dropped to his knees, his arm useless, pain written across his face. "You could have walked away," Darius said quietly. "But you needed to prove you were king." Blade spat blood, hatred burning in his eyes. "I don't bow to ghosts." "Then you'll fade like one." Darius moved, a blur of precision and purpose. 3 strikes, 1 to disarm, 1 to drop him, and 1 final hit that left Blade sprawled across the dirt, staring up at the sun like he'd never seen it before. For a long, terrible moment, the prison was silent. Even the sirens seemed to fade. Darius stood over the fallen man, blood dripping down his knuckles, chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. Then, instead of finishing it, he stepped back. He turned toward the nearest guard tower and raised his hands. "I'm done." The guards rushed in, tackling him, pinning him to the ground, but they were careful now, gentle even. No one wanted to provoke the ghost again. As they dragged him away, inmates pressed against the fences, shouting his name. "Cole, Shadow, Cole." It wasn't celebration. It was respect. The kind Redrock hadn't seen in years. From the ground, Blade coughed, clutching his ribs. Through swollen eyes he watched as Darius was taken back to solitary. And in that moment he understood what real power looked like. Not the kind that ruled through fear, the kind that earned silence. Inside the isolation cell, Darius sat under the flickering light. Blood stained his knuckles, but his eyes were clear. He whispered to himself, "I didn't want war." But peace never survives in cages. Outside, the prison buzzed with a single, unspoken truth. Redrock belonged to the ghost now. 3 days. That's how long Darius Cole sat in solitary. No sound but the hum of the light above him. No food except what the guards slid through the slot. No words spoken. He didn't need any. The silence suited him. It was the first peace Redrock had given him. On the 4th day, the cell door opened. The warden, a gray-haired man with eyes like steel, stepped inside. "You've caused quite a stir, Cole." Darius didn't look up. "That's so?" The warden crossed his arms. "I've been running this place for 20 years. Never seen anything like what happened out there. You broke half the rules in the book, and somehow, the prison's calmer than it's been in a decade." Darius finally looked up, his gaze steady. Maybe fear was the real problem. The warden studied him for a long moment. "Fear keeps men in line. Fear keeps men desperate," Darius replied. "Respect keeps them quiet." For a second, the older man almost smiled. "You've got everyone talking, even the board's watching. Word is, your sentence might get shortened." Darius shook his head. "I'm not here to shorten anything. I'm here to finish something." The warden frowned. "And what's that?" Darius stood slowly, chains clinking softly. "To remind people that monsters are made, not born. Weeks passed." The violence in Redrock slowed. The yard was quieter. Men started reading again, working again, surviving again. And though Darius spoke to no one, his name was whispered in every cell block like a ghost story, the tale of the man who silenced chaos without needing a weapon. As for Blade, he was transferred to another facility, broken but alive. He never spoke Darius's name again. Then, one morning, the guards came for Darius. "You're being moved," they said. "Where?" he asked. They didn't answer, and when he walked through those gates again, no one saw him leave, just a cold wind that passed through the yard. Some said the government took him back. Some said he vanished into the system. Others swore they saw him years later, walking down a quiet street, head low, eyes calm. But one thing was certain. Redrock never forgot the ghost who taught even the worst men what respect really meant. If this story hit you, if you believe that even in the darkest places, strength can still walk with mercy, tell us what you felt in the comments below. Do you think Darius was justified? Or did he go too far? Your voice makes this community stronger. Hit like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to remember. Even ghosts can carry light.